So you need to know the number of teams at your particular, if you're at a regional or a state competition, you need to know how many teams are coming and how many different sections of teams that you will have. At nationals we have 60 teams. Usually, but not always, we have 3 sessions with 20 teams in each session. So you need to know exactly how many are coming and how many sessions. Every team needs a set of materials, complete set of materials. And make sure that you bring lots of extra materials. Someone might have a set, no matter how hard and how careful you are, sometimes things go wrong, and somebody might get a set of materials without one of the image sets or without some of the questions, or something might be missing, and you want to get them a new one ASAP. So and also it's nice to have a set for every one of the proctors and helpers and scorers, as well as 5 or even 10 sometimes extra sets that I bring, just to be sure. So then for organizing the content of what you're going to use to construct the test with, you should first go to the National Science Olympiad website and look at the rules clarification section and see if people have asked questions about the event. Then you will know before you even look at anything else that there actually might be something that ends up, though we work really hard not to have that happen, there might be something in the event that is ambiguous to people, and they will ask a question and then it will be answered there on the national website. That way everybody gets the same answer to the question, and you would know that before you began. You need to balance the content. You need to look at the content. You need to look at the features and the objects and the content and balance your questions so that it includes the features. It should include all of the features, and it should include most of the content. If you, the teams that are coming in, remember that some of those teams are going to be winning state competitions and moving on to national competition. They're going to come to your event expecting to see the content listed in the event description in the rules manual and the coach's manual. So you really need to be faithful to that content. You'll be doing a serious disservice to the students that come in prepared for content, and so they should not see things that they are totally unprepared for, and that will do them no good as they move on to winning state competitions and moving on to national competition. The questions need to be easy to grade. The scoring does need to be completed in a hurry, so they need to be short, they need to be objective. The short answers can be used as long as they are, again, objective. Maybe if there's more than one answer or 2 different names for the same feature, make sure you have that in your answer key so you don't call somebody wrong because they have a different answer, because that answer might be just as correct as a different one. So you have to really make sure they're really objective, and if there's more than one answer that would fit, make sure you have that listed in the answer key so that the people correcting the event know exactly what to call correct and exactly what is not correct. The images and the charts should be used together. Don't just have ID here and charts here and graphs here. Combine them all together so that they are not only identifying features or naming features, but they're actually putting an image with a graph or a chart together to ask a more process-oriented question where they have to actually interpret data and calculate an answer or come to an answer that way. Make sure that the charts and images are numbered really easily. Large letters can't confuse image A with image C, and so that the students are not confused with the numbering system. Make sure those are all in order. And you should also, and the questions will be determined. If you're going to have like one section and it's the beginning of the day, then you have the luxury of maybe having, if you so desire, questions that might have a little bit more of an answer that you'd have to really read carefully to know if the answer was correct or not. A little bit more, maybe slightly subjective, but you could only do that if you are going to have enough time to correct those kinds of questions and still get all your results into the scoring people as soon as possible so they can tally all the scores up, so they can put for every single event, remember they have to score first place down through how many places there are, how many teams are competing for every individual event as well as the overall team places, so they can award the medals and the trophies at the end of the competition. So make sure also that your tie-breaking method is in place, and it is a good one. At Nationals, we now put every single question in tie-breaking order, and that is a really good way to go if your competition is at the end where you only have 1 hour to get your results in, or you have 3 or 4 different sessions with teams in each one. You do not want to come to the very end and have to tie break with a very small amount of time left. So if you have a system like weighting every single question in tie-breaking order, then you can tie break at the end of every session, so that by the time you get to the end, you only have to tie break during that final set of teams that competes. And if you, for instance, only have 10 tie-breaking questions, and all of a sudden you get to the end and you have 3 teams that now are still tied at the end of those 10 tie-breaking questions, you do not want to put yourself into a situation where all of a sudden it's like, well, what am I going to use next? You need to put a lot of thought into the tie-breaking, because trust me, there are really a lot of bad ways to tie-break, because I've pretty much used them all up in the first few years as a national events supervisor. So please, I do not want you to repeat all the mistakes that I've made in the past. So again, write your questions so that they do not emphasize rote memorization. Make them have to use 2 or 3 image and graphs together, answering questions about them, not just IDing them. They have to interpret graphs. And so the best design is using a combination of images and charts or graphs, and that require both identification and interpretive skills.